All right. Well, welcome everyone again. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Aparo's Nonprofit Bites and Insights. These are our free webinar series that are tailored specifically for nonprofit professionals. We invite folks from all different industries, expertise to come share their knowledge with us. Today, we are focused on website accessibility. We have Jonathan Brabson from Climb with us today to talk through all of that with us. But before I turn it over to him officially, let's go over some housekeeping items. So this session will be recorded. All our webinars are usually recorded and are uploaded to our website as well as our YouTube channel. However, all of you who are attending live today, you will receive a follow-up email from me. It'll include the link to the recording, a copy of the slide deck, and other resources that we might talk about today. Now, Q&A and chat box are both available for to use. I do recommend that you use the questions for the Q&A box. It'll just help us keep us organized, but I'm going to monitor both anyway. So really quickly, I know there are a few of you who are new to Apara and what we do. So just wanted to share Apara, we are a nonprofit ourselves. We're based in Charlotte, North Carolina. And basically what we do is we help other nonprofits with any of their technology needs and challenges. We offer a wide range of services to make sure we meet the needs of the nonprofits. But if you are a staff member who's just looking for some coaching on like Excel, PowerPoint, or maybe you're someone who just needs some website support, we can work with you on any and all of that. So check us out on our website, apollo.org, if or when you'd like to access our services or just have a conversation of how we can help you, let us know. So really quickly, I do want to mention this because the deadline is tomorrow. So if you are a nonprofit in the North Carolina Triangle area, so Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, listen up. So we have a grant open called Mission Possible Awards, where one organization in this area will receive $10,000 of grant money and up to $50,000 of consulting support to make your technology dream a reality. Check us. I will drop the link in the chat in a moment, but again, the deadline is tomorrow to register. And then finally, these are the different ways to connect with us. Again, everything is through our website. If you haven't subscribed to our email list to stay updated on our programs, here's the QR code to do that. All right, well, that is it for me. Gonna go ahead, stop sharing my screen, and turn it over to Jonathan.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. I hope you guys are excited to dive into the world of website compliance. I'm going to start sharing my screen. One thing I told Yinting was that I want to get in and out of here in 30 minutes. I want to respect your time so that we are able to do other things today. So here we are. Yinting, am I good?
Looks good.
Right. Awesome. Awesome. Well, again, welcome everybody. Super excited to talk to you about website compliance and different things that are coming out there in society today. So, real quick, here's what we're going to talk about. So, website regulations, the impact on nonprofits. At the end of the day, it's about creating a greater user experience one step at a time. This is me. Real quick about me, Jonathan Brabson. I used to be a collegiate soccer coach for 25 years. I was at multiple schools in the Charlotte area. I currently still coach club soccer currently, but I decided to get out so I can spend more times with my kids. My role at Climb is to work with nonprofits, chambers, and associations to help facilitate digital accessibility and compliance according to a variety of ADA and other data privacy laws. At the end of the day, my goal is to work with you to help make the internet safer and more accessible for everyone. That's my ultimate goal. So, what we're going to try to cover today, or what we're going to cover today, give you a basic understanding of digital compliance. Talk about who is impacted. I think that's an important thing to know. What is your audience that you might know or might not know? Some business cases for website compliance. What is website accessibility, data privacy, some common mistakes, and some tips so that you can take action that's not overwhelming. So, before we start on this journey, just have a couple of questions for everybody in the audience. How many of you guys use your website to represent your brand and your mission? And you can just stick it into the chat there. All right. How many of you guys are aware that you have website visitors with disabilities that come to your website? How many of you guys personally appreciate when websites are transparent about the PII they collect? PII is personal identifiable information. So when you go to a website, it asks you to accept all or decline all. As many people tell me, those annoying pop-ups. How many of you guys appreciate that? All right. When I said website compliance, how many of you guys thought this is this massive task? Oh my God, it's financially and time-wise, I can't even think about it because of how big it sounds. And lastly, how many of you guys currently use an accessibility tool for your website? So those are some things that we're just going to touch on briefly today and get a better understanding of the why. All right, so real quick. So website accessibility in action. Here's how it can look. So we have a website for someone who has dyslexia is able to utilize an accessibility tool to make an easier user experience for them to view content through the dyslexic feature. Website compliance in action. We just talked about how those pop-ups on the bottom said accept all, decline all. Here's another example of how you can get even more, you can get deeper into it to see exactly what they are collecting and where it could be going. Okay, so what is website compliance? There's four key elements specifically that CLIMB covers. One is accessibility. So our goal is to ensure that websites are accessible to the users of all abilities. The second one is consent management. And essentially management allows you as the individual to manage and protect your data according to various regulations. So currently there's over 100 different regulations, both in the US and globally, that require some form of consumer data privacy law. Data subject request. Some of you guys might have done this before. When you go on, click on a website and it says, do not sell or share my information. You fill that information out. It could be, what information do you have on me? That's data subject request management. And lastly, document management. Could be an accessibility statement. It could be privacy policy or cookie policies as well. All right, just real quick, a little bit about the data privacy laws. So starting in 2018, Europe came out what is called the GDPR regulations, which essentially said that anytime you go to a website from Europe, that website must ask for your permission to process, collect, and store your PII, your personal identifiable information, all websites. In 2020, California started to enforce those laws with similar features. And as of 2020 and until now, there are over 19 states that have a specific consumer data privacy law. The best way for me to describe the consumer data privacy law is when you go to a specific website and you're looking for shoe, socks, shirt, whatever it is. Then you go to say, let's use Facebook, for example. And then all of a sudden from Facebook, you're getting advertisements for shoes, shorts, and socks. Well, what has happened is Facebook has placed a script onto that said website and is gathering your information by putting a cookie onto your browser. All a cookie is just a basket. It's just collecting your information. And then when you've gone back to Facebook, YouTube, Yahoo, whatever the case may be, they've recognized their cookie and are able to advertise to you. And so what Europe said is that no, you can't do that without you saying yes. And now other states are starting to add some variation of those laws. It's similar to sales tax. Many people will go to South Carolina when they have their free tax days, or some people will go to South Carolina because the gas tax is cheaper. Very similar to consumer data privacy laws. Each state has specific nuanced regulations around that. All right, evolution of web accessibility. Really, it started in 1990 with the creation and introduction of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which has a sole goal to prohibit discrimination with individuals with disabilities in areas of public life. So essentially, are you providing equal access to your public area? Then in 1999, WCAG was developed through the World Wide Web Consortium. Say that three times really fast. From that, it just gave some guidelines with ADA in mind of what should websites provide. From in 2008, WCAG 2.0 was developed that talked about poor, perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust, and three different levels of conformance. The great thing was in 2010, the Department of Justice recognized websites as a place of public accommodation. So just like if you have a building, you would have a ramp, maybe an elevator, whatever the different sort of things for those with physical disabilities. It also says that your website must provide those same features. And then lastly, 2018, WCAG had been amended to a WCAG 2.1 to address mobile accessibility and cognitive disabilities as well. All right, so what is poor? I mentioned it's perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. So one thing I want to be clear on before we move forward is that there are no hard, fast rules or regulations around website accessibility. A lot of what they're asking, I'll be honest, there's grayness to it. A lot of these laws come to people with screen readers. We're talking about those who are completely blind, really dealing with the back end in the coding area. And so with perceivable, okay, how is your information presented to users in a way that they can perceive? We all look at that differently. Operable. Is it available to individuals who need to use keyboard navigation? Are there timers involved when it goes to the pages where the content leaves? Understandable. Is it in readable text? Predictable navigation. And the last one, is it robust? So specifically around how does it ensure compatibility with screen readers? Want to be clear, screen readers has to make sure deals with you've coded it appropriately on the back end. Three levels of conformance. There's A, there's double A, there's triple A. A is the minimum standard. Most people strive for, and the government sort of pushes the double A standard, the triple A standard. It's very expensive, very, very difficult. Those are your large corporations that can employ individuals that all they do on a daily basis is making sure that their website stays up to the highest conformed standards for website accessibility. Impacted groups. I think this is possibly the most important thing that I can talk about right now. Who is impacted? Oftentimes, when people come to your website, you probably have an idea of, oh, okay, I had 15 visitors, or I had 1.5 million visitors. They came from this browser, they came from this location. What you don't know are the people that could have disabilities, that could be difficult for them to view your website. So, people with visual impairments. As I mentioned, blind individuals who use screen readers. What about people with low vision? People that are colorblind. If your website has lots of colors, how are they able to distinguish different colors? What about people with hearing impairments? Deaf individuals. Do you have the ability to have closed captions if you have video available? What about people with cognitive disabilities? And I would love to sort of get a thumbs up of anybody on here who knows anybody that has, or maybe themselves, that has dyslexia, ADD, ADHD. Has anyone considered the potential difficulties that those individuals could have coming to your website? What about people with motor disabilities? What about people that cannot utilize a screen reader, or I'm sorry, a mouse? Are you able to utilize the keyboard? Is your website set up so they can use the keyboard to navigate appropriately? Also, thinking about the elderly and aging population. Um, I'm getting older. Sometimes I just need the screen to be larger and brighter. No two ways around it. Have you considered what accommodations you're making for those individuals as well? Why does accessibility matter? We can read all that. It aligns with your core values, improve donations, legal compliance and risk mitigation, greater visibility and trust. At the end of the day, for me, it's just the right thing to do. And the thing I like about nonprofits, you guys all are trying to do the right thing in a specific area. Your mission is to do the right thing. That's why website accessibility to me matters. And would love to have your thoughts on why accessibility matters to you. Just drop it in the chat, just to kind of get an idea of, are these things that you have thought about? Here's some key stats. One, 61 million Americans, so we're looking at about 26% of Americans, one in four, live with some type of disability. Low vision, dyslexia, ADHD, those are individuals, and there's a percentage of Americans. 20% of Americans live with dyslexia. Now, I understand that there's varying degrees. I met with a young lady, excuse me, I met with a young lady yesterday, and she has mild dyslexia. I've met with other individuals, they have severe dyslexia and they have to utilize certain traits to be able to read appropriately. So it varies. 75% of the disabled users report challenges using websites. And those challenges can be very, very simple little challenges that myself have never considered. How many of you out there would love to have 0.01% of the $1 trillion in spending power of disabled consumers in the US? 0.01%. How would that impact your nonprofit? So being able to provide a more accessible website, maybe you'd have a shot at those numbers. 90% of US websites are non-compliant. And then 87% of consumers like to support organizations that prioritize inclusion, specifically website accessibility. So those are some basic stats of why accessibility matters. Again, at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do. Okay, so some key website accessibility mistakes. And you can sort of see here, I created a little faux website page. Missing alt text for images. All right. The purpose of a missing alt text is very simply, it's a description of a text. So let's say, for example, I'm going to use soccer shoes. If somebody can't visualize that, do you have alt text that allows a screen reader to tell them yellow soccer shoes, 12 cleats, blue shoelaces, kangaroo leather? That's an example of alt text. Insufficient color contrast. I want to go back a couple slides and show you guys something. This logo here stands out. Blue background, white logo, easy to discern. This logo here, did this on purpose, this logo here, it kind of blends in a little bit more. I think we would all agree the first logo is easier to view. You don't have to do a lot of work to see it. Insufficient color contrast, making sure that the background and the content is vastly different to make it easier to read. Excuse me. Same thing with the pictures. Like a keyboard navigation, I mentioned that as well. Allows people with less dexterity, just to push buttons and use the cursors on the keyboard versus having to use a mouse to navigate it. Clutter layout. Look at all this right here. If this is not a definition of a cluttered layout, I don't know what is. So making sure everything has spacing appropriately as well. And then non-descriptive text link. So a descriptive text link, instead of saying click here, learn more, maybe you could say something like sign up here to volunteer, sign up here to donate, being very descriptive on what they are clicking on. All right, how do you take action? Well, first off, test your website's accessibility. One of the neat things that we provide here at Climb is a complimentary compliance scanner, and I'll provide a link for that here at the end. That'll just give you an idea of, hey, what are we missing? The other thing is conduct manual testing. A manual testing are working with individuals who their sole objective is to go onto websites, and because they are visually impaired or blind individuals, they can give you real-time feedback with regards to the issues that they may be having, whether it's with or without screen readers. Prioritize quick fixes. I want to stop right there for a second. A lot of time, back end coding, alt text, insufficient color contrast. Unfortunately, there's a cost into that. We've seen anywhere between 10 to 20% increase in a build of a site. A quick fix is a step in the right direction. Also, be able to close the loop. So for those of you out there that do have an accessibility widget, what are you doing about closing that loop on the back end? What are your developers able to do so that you also make sure you reach those with screen readers as well? The last thing is make a long-term commitment to digital accessibility. It's always changing. You're always adding new content. You're always adding new pictures. Making sure that you're constantly updating things and also being audited as well, just so that you are making sure that you're staying compliant or accessible, accessible with current standards on the back end. And then last thing, ask for feedback. Very similar to conduct manual testing. Just gather feedback from the disabled community. See what their challenges may be so that you can have a better idea of some directions that you may need to go. Okay, so I'm going to show you Climb in action right here. So I was fortunate enough that Miss Stephanie has allowed me to utilize her website. And so it's the Aziza Project. They're located out in Washington, and they work for, she has a nonprofit for gynecological pain. So here we are on the bottom left. We are a widget, as I mentioned, completely customizable. So when you open the widget, oh, come on, widget. Oh, sorry about that. Let me refresh it. So when you open the widget, what you're going to see is a jurisdiction specific setup. So right now I have my VPN set to Texas, and Texas has a set of consumer data privacy laws that ask for specific data subject requests. So if you're coming from, let's say we are coming from North Carolina, which is where most of us are coming from, you're going to see a different viewing different viewing experience right here. So here's our accessibility features right here. As I mentioned, here is the opportunity to be transparent and allow the individual to opt out of anything that's gathering your PII in a place where they store legal documents. So with accessibility, here are 6 preset features. Seizure safe, individuals that may have epilepsy, vision impairment. As I mentioned, individuals with low vision or the aging population, just to make it easier for them to view the site. I asked the question earlier. How many of you guys know somebody or yourself has ADHD? Now we have this focus bar here to help you navigate a little bit easier. We have a colorblind setting, and then we also have a dyslexic friendly setting to create an easier viewing experience as well. We also have some personalized features with this also. So font size, you can go as large as you want. Text spacing, line spacing. And the last one I want to show you here is our text magnifier. With the click of a mouse, you roll it over content and brings it more to the forefront. That's Climb. To be able to install this widget is less than 30 minutes. So what I want to do is I want to stop there, Yinting, and I want to take some questions so far.
So far, no questions have come through, but we
Okay.
can give it a minute.
Okay. I
Or
know
if
I've kind of
anyone,
thrown a lot out there, so
yeah. Any thoughts around the widget? I know when I first saw it, my mind was blown. I see the front end of the accessibility is clear. Does it support back-end coding or reviewing compliance?
so great question. So great question right there. So you're talking about does it support back-end coding or really review compliance? So I'm going to go back again and share my screen right here. And the other question is there a fee? So
Mhm.
we will get right to that as well. But what I want to show you is our compliance scanner. And I mentioned that. So sorry, Yenting.
Go
I
for
used Aparo.
it.
Here's what the compliance scanner is going to show you. So accessibility. So we show you some contrast issues with the failed elements right here. Names and labels. Again, links don't have discernible names. Here's the broken link right there. And the other part that we provide is we also talk about how are you compliant with it with varying in jurisdictions, whether it's in the U.S. specific states or globally. And so, yes, the compliance scanner does give you a snapshot of where you could be out of compliance. Now, somebody asked a question about cost with that. What Climb is doing specifically for nonprofits is we have created what's called a Climb for Good program. We what the purpose of that is to work with nonprofits specifically to provide them a complimentary subscription of Climb to include installation assistance. What we want to do here at Climb is we want to help to make sure that your mission doesn't get lost unintentionally for individuals that might have trouble viewing the website. Climb wants to help advance your mission. And that's what we provide is a complimentary grow subscription, self-service support, and then installation assistance as well. Again, less than 30 minutes, we can have this installed. A couple of things also that's important. We're already working with a few nonprofits, and here's some things, some feedback that we have received from them. You can see we work with a nonprofit outreach center, an association of associations. Again, I'm a soccer guy. I had to bring in a soccer association as well. The great thing about the soccer association was the fact that they do have a mission to work with those in the community with disabilities, but never considered how their website can get the message out. And so he was excited about that. We work at the recovery center. A lot of people don't realize that those people that are seeking treatment do need that assistance to just view where do I go? What help can I get? And then the last one, a director of development for a nonprofit that provides for individuals with developmental disabilities. So just a few companies that we work with that were kind enough to give us some information. What other questions can I answer?
We have a question around, is there an auto caption feature for videos?
No, that's where we come into the back end. That's the coding part that we talk about, where you're going to have to work with your developer to change some of the coding. But the good thing is, one of the things that Climb is currently developing is a set of tools to close that loop. So not only do we want to provide you something for those with cognitive disabilities, but we also want to make sure that that loop on the back end has the necessary coding so that screen readers can be provided the necessary information and, like you mentioned, text reading.
Great. Can you recommend a guide or checklist for the quick fixes for website accessibility?
Yeah, so and again, I think those were what we talked about. The common ones were alt text, inappropriate alt text or insufficient alt text, insufficient color contrast. I think that's probably the biggest one to that can be changed is making sure that your background is not black and you're using blue content. Making sure the color contrast is appropriate. Keyboard navigation and descriptive text links, that's where you're going to have to really work with your developer to make sure that those are appropriate as well. As I mentioned, this is a marathon. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And it just takes steps. It takes steps to be able to get to the place where, hey, we're comfortable running a marathon. We're making sure that we check all the necessary boxes.
And all of you will get a copy of the slide deck, so you can certainly reference the slide that had about those quick fixes.
Yes.
We had a question around government regulation. Do you think more government regulation is forthcoming?
Whew. Um, well, currently, government websites or those individuals that are getting funding or those corporations that are getting funding from the government their websites need to be accessible. So, yes, but I think we can all agree, I think it needs to trickle down to those non-government sites as well. What's happening is that there's a lot of lawsuits. Not, I'm going to say a lot. There's a good handful of lawsuits that are going on across the U.S. for inaccessible websites. Individuals are going on and they're saying, well, it doesn't work with me because I have a screen reader, or because I'm colorblind, it doesn't work for me, whatever it is. And a lot of companies are getting these demand letters that are saying that, hey, you better do something about it with an average fine of around $8,000. Most of these have not gone to court, but they're settling out of court. And so with Climb, you're just showing the necessary steps. We asked earlier, what is accessible? What is perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust? Like, what is that? You know, we want to be clear that we're just a step. We no widget, no widget can make you accessible. Okay, I got to put that in quotation marks, accessible. But you're providing the necessary steps, which is what they're asking for as well. And so that's why I said early on, there's a lot of gray areas within that. And so that's why we say that, hey, we're a step. You're showing that you're making the necessary improvements. Because as I mentioned, if you try to get accessible to the T of it, which is coding on the back end, you're looking at 10 or 20% additional cost. And how many nonprofits can afford that, right off the bat?
Mhm.
So hopefully that answered your question.
Any other questions?
So real quick, Ian Ting, I'm going to go back again. I want to share this slide right here. Here's an opportunity, again, at no cost. Go ahead and scan your site. You can put your information in there, use the QR code, scan your site, and it'll give you just sort of a little bit of feedback on where you could have some successes or some things that need to be implemented.
Did you share your screen?
Oh,
Sarah.
oh, you know what? It'd help if I hit share. There we go.
There it
Sorry
is.
about that. Let me make it larger. So, there we go. Sorry. There you go. Okay. So again, feel free to scan your site, learn more about it. But more importantly, let's just take the first step together. I think that's something that I can't stress enough, Yenting, is let's take that first step together. And through our Climb for Good program, we're here to take that first step.
And so if someone is interested in taking that next step with you all, what's the best way?
The best way is to reach out to me, and I'll put my information in the chat right here. You can always go to climb.io or email me. Climb dot. Oop. I put it there in the chat as well.
Perfect.
So love to hear from you guys. At the very least, just to get more into, the weeds of it.
I'm curious, has anyone tr tested out your website yet? It's really quick, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's quick. Gives you a
I'm
lot of
sure some people are
information.
checking it out now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How many of you have already received the results? You're like, what the heck is this? That's okay. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for.
Funny. Well,
Oh.
I don't see any other questions coming through. If there are additional questions, you can feel free to reach out to Jonathan, or you can feel free to let me know and I can connect with him, whatever you feel comfortable with. There will be a follow-up email. It'll include the link to the recording as well as the slide deck. And of course, it'll come from me, so feel free to reply if you do have any questions, comments, or concerns. Um, I believe that's it. I want to say a big thank you, Jonathan, for this truly valuable information. I learned a lot, and I hope some of you will take a moment and really check out your website and see how we can work together to be more website compliant across the board. That is it for today. We are at 12:40, so 20 minutes back in your day. And hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Thank you again, Jonathan.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye bye.